live from the Drew Estate Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Spare Notes series with your hosts, Matt Tabacco and William Cooper.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. My name is Matt Tabacco from SpokenTabacco.com, and I am joined once again by my very good friend, Mr. William Cooper of Cigar-Coop.com, broadcasting live from Indian Trail, North Carolina. I'm here in Boston, Mass, in the Drew Estate Cigar Studios, and in the Great White North in Canada, it's our good friend, Mr. Mitchell Santaga of SmokinTobacco.com. Mitchell, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing, Coop, Matt?
Coop, what's going on, brother?
Doing great. Doing good, man. Doing good. A long day today. This was a 3 podcast day. So this is we saved the best for the finale here.
Yeah, no one can do the marathon like you though, Coop. You know, I mean.
Yeah, this was a long one today. I can tell you. I haven't done a 3-time one in a long time. So.
Well, it's because you've been
Did
traveling
you do a
so much.
Did you do a jukebox today?
Yeah, we did jukebox. We finished that up about 7:30.
Nice. Nice.
Yep.
Well,
so
we are finally back on a 3 podcast day with Coop. So I guess that's something to celebrate. We are all actually. This was not pre-planned. This kind of happened at the last minute, but Mitchell initiated this, and then Coop and I decided to follow. We are all smoking, gentlemen. Hold them up. The Mi Querida Black, the Saka Khan from, that's right, Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. We are all here smoking it tonight together. This is a fantastic cigar. It was on our list. I don't believe it was on the Coop
Number
list.
5.
It was number 5 on our list.
Yeah.
it was not on my list. It came out too late to be eligible, but I have smoked the
Okay.
JR version, which is the same.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate this making the Coop list this year, but it's not a bad cigar.
Yeah, it's good.
Saka Khan.
I'm
Saka
actually
Khan, yeah.
Saka Khan. I'm actually looking forward to the Papa Saka, the smaller size that
Yes.
Steve has now, kind of informally introduced, shown off online, which
I don't know about that cigar. This is my Saka.
oh, I thought you were doing yourself.
No.
Coop, but remind me, because I feel like you know this off the top of your head. What is the size on it? Is it a 5.5?
7. Oh, the
The smaller
Saka
one,
Khan.
the new one, yeah.
I want to say it's around the 5 5/8, 46, 48 range.
Okay.
He hasn't formally announced it yet.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't think he's given the true full Vitola.
Yeah, he posted a photo of it online. He's talked about it, but there's been no formal. Here it is. So
I thought he was
very-
going to go 6x48 on it, but that was just me.
Well,
Yeah,
Nicole,
it's in that range. It's in that range, I would say. Yeah.
well, I remember we saw him at PCA last year. And we talked about this one was on display. That was when they were first taking orders for it, and he had said, hey, like I have other sizes I'm gonna come out with. This is just kind of like our rollout of this, whatever. So we knew more sizes were coming. I remember when we finally got these, Nicole smoked it, and she really loved the blend. But she was like, I'd love to try this in a smaller size. She didn't like how big this was. So I know she's excited for the smaller size to give that a shot, obviously, after the baby comes. But I know that's high on her list of new cigars she wants to try for 2023. So really excited for it. Like I said, I liked this one a lot. I know Mitchell enjoyed it. I know Coop enjoyed it, but we'll see where it ranks on the Coop list this year. But with that, gentlemen, we are back. Another Spare Note show. I have decided to cut and light my cigars once again with Cigar Blondie accessories. That's right. Right here. The beautiful cutter and lighter set from Cigar Blondie Accessories can only be found at cigarblondie.com in 3 beautiful finishes: chrome, white, and black. And Mitchell, you do have a set. One was sent to you, and I don't know what happened to it. So there's another. That we're
I
gonna
blame
get
the
to you.
Canadian government.
I blame the Canadians too. Those damn Canadians.
Conscious Canadians.
Conscious Canadians. I like that. Cameron says,
Yeah,
Coop is dead on with the Papa Saka per what Saka has shared on previous streams.
There you go.
Okay.
There you
Coop's
go.
always dead on.
Coop's-
But yeah, I can't wait to get my my Cigar Blondie lighter. I love those flat jet flame, kind of like brush painting on the flame to your
It is.
to the foot of your cigar.
It's a nice lighter. It really is. That whole flat blade flame, whatever you want to call that, fan flame. It's nice. It's something a little different. I really enjoy it, especially in smaller vitolas. But it works with anything. It gets the job done and performs really well. Great accessory. There is a handful of things on the docket for tonight. I guess I always like to start with Coop. I like to defer to Coop and ask him what he has on the list, and then I'll get to my list after. But Coop, what's on your list of or your shit list, I should say, for the week?
There was a story that came out a couple of weeks ago that I don't think we got a chance to talk about, but I think I mentioned it to you. And it's about the college football coach who was.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I don't think we made it to that.
Yeah. And he was suspended. He was basically suspended because they lit up cigars in the locker room. It was a guy by the name of Tony Anise.
Okay.
And what happened is after they won the division, his team, Ferris State, won the Division II championship. There were some players, I guess, smoking in the locker room, and now he's suspended. He got suspended as a result of that.
For allowing that to happen.
Yeah. And I thought it was kind of an interesting story that happened with that. Because, I mean, so I don't know what you guys think about this, right? First of all, I think it sucks, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I wanted to pull something up here. I apologize.
It's unfortunate that has to happen because
you
have people like Joe Burrow and others who have kind of started to bring that trend back of the true victory cigar, right? And it's unfortunate that not every athlete, I guess, can use that celebration.
Right. But this is going to be an unpopular thing I'm going to say. I do support the suspension if he broke the rule. I know the rule sucks, okay? But I don't think that this sets a good example for the cigar community that we should just go and break the rule. So,
I know
what I'm saying? We've always been respectful of the rules. We might not agree with the rules, but I think we've always been respectful of it. And in my opinion, I just think if the rule was you can't smoke there, that it sucks. I know you can't smoke there. And you can't make an exception here. It's not fair to anyone else then who comes by and does that. And like I said, from a cigar community, I think we've always kind of respected the rules. It's kind of like I remember Fred Rui once told me, we all used to like smoke in front of the non-smoking sign.
Yeah.
And I think Fred one day said, that's not really a good idea to do that. And he was even acknowledging that he did it in the past. And he said, I don't think it's a good idea we do that anymore. And he's kind of taking that stance that he's not going to do that anymore. And I kind of agreed with him on that. So I do think it sucks that the coach got suspended and everything. But the rule is the rule here. And I just don't think anyone's above the rule. It's just unfortunate that rule's in place. But I don't think you can make an exception here.
I agree.
So I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, as a cigar smoker and someone who spends a lot of time in the cigar community and the industry and, knowing the discriminations and whatnot that we face as an industry and as enthusiasts from our own government and trying to show how we are as a people and how, our tobacco consumption and lifestyle and everything is different than others. I think cigar smokers, no matter what part of the game you play it, as a whole, I think cigar smokers are generally good people who are just trying to, enjoy this lifestyle and whatnot. And I think we try to have an image and a presentation of ourselves that is respectful, that, we're not crazy nut jobs. The idea is we're always telling people, like, hey, cigar people are great people. We help in their communities. We're very sociable. All the good qualities, right? So, again, I kind of agree. I think it's like, well, don't blatantly go against that and try to make it, because here's the problem, especially when it's smoking and stuff, and you get all the people who are so anti-smoking, and you see someone who's pushing, being like, fuck it, I'm going to smoke anyway. That gives those people that unjustly frown on the rest of us. That, like, oh, see, look, there's that there's that dickhead smoking a cigar. Oh,
Right.
cigars are gross.
Right,
It's like,
right.
you're
Oh,
giving
they're those
them
guys
that
again. Yeah,
ammunition
they think they're
against
above
us.
the rules.
Yeah, exactly, Coop. And you're giving them an example to use against everybody. And the truth is that 99% of us don't act that way. So I agree. I don't like it. I don't like the rules. I don't like that it even happened. I think it sucks. It's another example of the crap that cigar smokers have to deal with laws and rules in place. I get it. If anything, we should be working to respectfully find exemptions or change the rules or try to whatever. But don't paint more of a target on your back, because that just makes it harder.
I agree. And I think this was actually a stadium rule. It wasn't an NCAA rule, but I guess
or a
they
city
still
rule or.
It was it wasn't related to the NCAA policy. Now that kind of worries me a bit. That when stuff like this starts to happen, does the NCAA now get involved with this? Could they get involved with it? And what I'm saying is, for the negative, saying, "Oh, we don't want to deal with this BS anymore. We're just going to ban it completely." So I mean, I just don't think there's any positives in what happened here. And look, as a cigar community, we can scream and protest on that. I don't think, but I think to say he shouldn't have gotten fined, I don't like he got fined, but the rule's the rule. Is all I can tell you. He broke the rule.
Yeah, the other thing too is we've seen in the last year or two, just such an increased sense of celebration with cigars with athletes, especially at the collegiate level, right? But yeah, even in some of the pro levels and the World Series and the Super Bowl and stuff like that. Joe Burrow personally has been a huge part of that resurgence of the victory cigar. I mean, look, I'm from Boston. Boston Celtics. Red Auerbach. I mean, anyone who Coop's age, the Stone Age people that are still around, like Jose Blanco, another one, who's been around that long, who remember that. 'Cause I know I don't. You remember Red Auerbach. Coop probably remembers it like it was yesterday. 50 years ago. Sorry,
I do.
I'm sorry.
The scary thing is I do. I remember.
But seriously, but Coop, you probably remember that. That was just an everyday thing, And Red Auerbach, known for the cigars, and now, we don't really have that, and it's unfortunate because, it kind of goes back to the boom in the '90s, right? You had, as much as we talk shit about the things we deal with Cigar Aficionado, which is a different issue. On the other side of the coin, when Cigar Aficionado started in the 90s, it helped bring the image of celebrities, movie stars.
Absolutely.
It brought that image of look at all these people who you probably love and follow and admire, who are big cigar smokers, and look at them on the cover smoking cigars, and it helped create a rush and helped influence a boom, and it was stuff like that. And I think that when you kind of start to see a little bit more of that in today's society, on more of a digital media format, like on TV and whatnot, it's you're showing people oh, Joe Burrow, how old is Joe? 19, 20, 21? He's not very old. He's a very younger guy. But there he is winning, the college football championship, and he's smoking a cigar in the locker room. I mean, that's an image. I mean, regardless of whether it was okay or not, but that's an image, right? So it would hurt to Coop, back to your original point. Yeah, it would be unfortunate to see that just being a blanket rule taken away, because I think it's nice. I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of that momentum again.
Yep, I agree. I think it's been a very good couple of years for things like that. Again, you go with the Houston Astros. Oscar Valladares had their cigars on the field.
Yep.
El Septimo's had it for a couple Super Bowls.
I think the Rams had them. I think the Braves smoked Padrones when they won the World Series a few years ago.
I'm trying to remember, but it's possible.
I think it was Padrone.
Yeah. But by the way, I gotta just say, El Septimo did a nice job of promoting the fact that they had their cigars on the field. They did a good job with that.
Yeah.
I think Oscar could have did a little bit of a better job with it, but I think they didn't do a bad job either. But I think El Septimo did the best job. I mean, they made sure everyone was aware of that.
Yeah, we know Joe smokes Tabacco Specials and La Flor Dominicanas. Who else? I feel like there's another.
Well, the Colorado Avalanche, when they won the Stanley Cup, the coach was smoking.
Oh, what was he smoking?
I forget what he was smoking. But there were a lot of pictures with him with a cigar. Brian Dable is a cigar smoker, the coach of the Giants. Coach now I call him Coach Dable. But yeah, he is. I think the cigar companies need to do a little better job at kind of, promoting the fact when their cigars are smoked by the sports teams. They haven't quite mastered it yet.
And you know what? I mean,
it seems like it's just easy. It's
send
just
them some
money
cigars,
on the table.
and it's advertisement really, and it's good for the industry because it's getting the cigar smoking thing out there to more people.
You want to get something where your band is really visible. That's the key thing. Where you shouldn't have to squint and figure out what it is.
Yeah.
And that's the one problem I think El Septimo had a little. That bands just aren't conducive to that.
Yeah.
But I remember there was when LeBron James won the championship in 2017. He was smoking this cigar called YO. It was called Yaxel Ortiz, and I actually happened to know of that cigar, so I was able to recognize it right away. It's a small, basically house brand that was doing some distribution out of Ohio that he got his hands on. And that little company got a lot of notoriety. I remember when I actually put the review out on that cigar, it got a ton of hits, just because it was LeBron James's celebratory cigar. So, but that was really clear. You could see the YO, and it was very clear what that band was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bold colors, big letters.
Yeah, and I feel like I know I'm not the only one. I'm sure this has been happening to you guys too, where you see someone on TV smoking, and you're just like, oh, what is that? What is it? What band is that?
Of course.
Well,
after every championship, you always see 1,000, Facebook posts of the guy covering the band, holding it, and everyone's like, oh, "Do you know what he's smoking? Do you know what he's smoking?"
Yeah,
it's always posts like those. Always.
I get a ton of messages. Like, what is it? I'm like,
DMs.
Covering it up, man.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Now but to your original point, Coop. Although it sucks, like you said, that someone kind of gets a suspension due to something we all really enjoy. Like you said, it's the rule. It could have been easily avoided. Yeah, it could have been easily avoided. You just ask, "Hey, are we allowed to do that? Yes or no?"
Yeah.
And then
But
that's it.
yeah. Look, when we go to our trade show every year at the Venetian, there's some pretty strict smoking rules when you leave the convention floor. So we have to abide by those. We don't like them. I get it. We don't like them, but we have to abide by them.
Yeah, it's true.
And there are consequences if you don't. So
yeah, like getting kicked out of the trade show and a waste of all the money you spent to go there.
Yeah. So we just, like I said, we don't need that type. That's the attention. That's the last attention the cigar industry needs. Unfortunately, that story I think was a little bit of a, I don't want to say it was a black mark on the cigar industry, but it certainly wasn't a positive mark when that story came out.
No, definitely not.
David says, I've seen Tom Selleck smoke Don Carlos on Blue Buds, and that's true. That's true. I've seen the clip.
Yeah, I've seen it too. And
did you get the clip on your phone? Did you get it too? Because I remember I got it
from Carlito.
Yeah. And so it's funny because I'm like, I remember watching that, and I think on the show, like, the label's not on the lid, but it's that red box and it's the shape.
Yeah.
And you see him in there, and then it's also on the black. Not those. I don't think it's the Sharks, but it's still. I can't remember what it was. Oh no, it's Hemingway's on the Blacklist with James Spader. I don't watch the show, but I've seen that clip where like they go into someone's office and they look in this humidor and he's like, "Oh, Hemingway's," and blah 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 blah, and then they go off and they do something else. So yeah, but again, like more of that, like on TV shows where like there's actually a little bit of attention to the cigars too.
Yeah.
I think is great, and I think that every time that happens, I like to think that there's a small percentage of non-smokers who go, and just think about it a little bit and try it, and if even a few percentage of those people start to become cigar smokers, I think it's a win for the industry, and we need
absolutely,
we need more of that influence. Yeah, we need more of that influence.
It's positive. Yeah. So like I said, I don't like it. I used to be one of the guys who would smoke in front of the non-smoking sign. I don't do it. Doesn't mean it still means I think it's a stupid rule, and I think these things need to be changed. But it is what it is.
So we have a question here. It's a little off topic, but I'm gonna pull it up. I guess, because it's here, and I like to respect everyone's questions and try to answer them. Boil at your own risk. Are we better off storing at 70 to 73 degrees? I walk into a lot of humidors by me. Their sticks look ready to smoke at those temps. In terms of temp, Coop, I don't know if you want to chime in here first, and then I'll kind of circle back around you.
I usually don't go above 70.
Right.
So I tend to keep 67 to 70. Depending, in the winter I'll go closer to 70. In the summer I'll go closer to 67. I think 73, at least where I live, is a little too high. So a lot you want to go is, how humid an area you're in to determine it. 70 is safe, but like I said, if it's in a humid area, you may want to go a little further down sometimes. And, I've seen differences. This week I'd be a little careful. Because I said I tend to smoke it with a lower humidity. But, there's one cigar I actually have coming up for review that I think really performed bad under lower humidity. And it's getting another review at the 70 level. And I saw a big difference with it. So I'm going to have that coming up.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think 70 to 73 is a little high. I personally, I try to keep mine 68 or lower, including my humidity. I don't like to go anything on either humidity or temp. I know the question was about humidity, but just for the sake of the conversation, I try to keep them both under 70. But I don't because that's just my preference. That's how I like my cigars to smoke. That's the right amount that I like to have them at. That most of them pretty perform well at for me that I enjoy. But again, I guess it's preference really. At the end of the day, ultimately it is preference. But I think as an industry standard, I think that's a little high.
Well, the other problem when you get up towards 73, you got to watch yourself for mold and beetles.
Correct.
So that's where you got to be a little careful, which is why I tend to be a little more
especially if you
conservative.
have a high humidity content. So if you have a lot of moisture and you have a high temp, it's easier for that mold, the spores to begin and to grow, which you don't want that either because, then you just, you're wasting
I also
inventory.
tend to keep the humidity and the temperature very similar. So
Me
and I
too.
do have I
Me
have
too.
a thermostat in my and two of the humidors upstairs. So I do that as well. And I could, for example, I've kept cigars at like optimum humidity down here in the studio, but I will tell you when it gets cold in here, it will do a number on your cigars.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't leave them overnight. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being up in Boston, we have a beautiful mix of all of the extreme temperatures and humidities, right? We have freezing cold and extremely dry winters. And then we have these extremely hot and blissful humidity summers. And then in between, in the spring and the fall, it's kind of, in the middle there. But, you're going from like an extreme to another extreme. A little bit of a break in between, although our springs and our falls are kind of bleeding into just, a very short, in the last couple of years, a very short transition from summer to winter. It feels like it's hot, 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 then it's cold, 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 and then it's cold, 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 and then it's hot, hot, hot. And so we kind of go from dry to moist, just like that. We have,
yeah. Like, I'll just tell you, Matt, right now the weather here is 46 degrees. It's raining, so it's very high humidity, 95%.
Yeah.
Which is really, it's kind of a nutty weather we're having like, this time of the year. And that's just where
we're at 41. We're not too far behind you.
No, we've had like really, like for the past 3 days we've had storms coming through here. So
Wow.
It's been like some heavy rains we've had.
Wow. We had some rain up here this past week. It's the springtime, April showers, they bring May flowers. Isn't that the old saying?
Yep.
But still, summer's on the way, so I'm getting excited. Yeah. Although it's still cold up there in Canada. I mean, what do they see? Like 1 month of summer? I don't know.
luckily here it's I live in the warmest part of Canada, beautiful British Columbia. So
that's right.
It's actually literally the exact same as you guys right now. It's 42 degrees Fahrenheit, which is around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, and it's been raining for the last 4 days.
Wow.
And it's it's crazy.
We're gonna be clearing out overnight. It's supposed to be really nice tomorrow. So
yeah, Nice Easter. I
But-
think it's gonna be nice for us too.
To go
Yeah.
on that question, I pretty much go 68 or lower. I don't ever really creep up to 70 personally.
Yeah.
That's just I'll go as low as 64 on humidity and 65 on temp. But not for too long. I like to keep it, between 65 to 68 in both temp and humidity.
Great question, by the way. Thank you
Yep.
to who
Yeah,
sent that in.
I always tell people that's never a bad question to ask. We can always be reminded of it. Doesn't hurt to just kind of checkpoint with each other on that from time to time.
And like I said, a lot of it's personally about where you live. Again, here, raining a lot, very humid. I like to keep mine a few points lower than other places where, it's super dry. You might need a bit more.
Yep.
Absolutely. So last week, was it last week or the week before? No, it had to have been last week because it was after our last show. So I don't think we brought this up yet. So on our last show, did we talk about PCA moving the trade show?
Yes.
Okay. So what we didn't talk about was since then, we have another big story about the PCA that has come up, and that is that STG, one of the 4, has returned to the trade show. Definitely going to bring that up tonight. It's what we've been talking about for the last few years. It's before this show even started. About the big 4 not being at the trade show, and now one is. So, STG and the PCA formally announced that STG will be back at PCA this year, and it sounds like they
were there last year.
Well,
I knew you were going to say that,
here we
Coop.
go. This is what Coop wants to do,
Okay,
technicality.
Go ahead, Matt. Continue.
No, it's okay. I'm just
yeah.
giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
But no. I mean, they will be back at the trade show. Yes, to Coop's credit, all 4 of them were there, and I used air quotes for those who were listening who can't see. They were there last year, and there's reasons for that, but they didn't exhibit, right? So let me be more specific for Coop's sake.
Yes, they did.
STG,
Yeah, that's the thing is Coop's right. They did have general cigar products on the floor.
Yeah, they did. They had frowned upon it. It wasn't even a Forge product. But go ahead.
Well, that was
I know
okay.
I know. I keep interrupting you, Matt. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Officially, they will be there as forged in a forged booth. I don't know how much more specific I can get. With
Yes,
all of the
officially,
forged products on display, and I think what was supposed to be the Alec Bradley booth, but they are officially going to be there with the Forged team, with all of the Forged brands, but not their other brands like Macanudo, Cohiba. It sounds to me like those won't be there. It's mostly just the Forged brands, and it will be a Forged booth, not a general booth or SD. It'll be just they are going to be there as Forged Cigar Company only. Yes, they were in attendance last year. They acquired Room 101 right before the trade show. Justin Andrews and a few others were there in Matt's booth. They also showcased Los Stados Deluxe and Sancho Panza, which are not Room 101 products. However, I think the reason why those were displayed was because General decided that they were sending people because they weren't going to pull out at the last minute. Matt had already paid to go, and they figured, hey, let's highlight some products at the trade show that Matt also worked on as well. So there we go. There is my whole response to Coop.
Well, and that's true. And that is correct. They did. It was and to be honest, I don't. I'm wondering if they will display some general product. I'm gonna guess no, because it's the Ford sales team that's gonna be there this year. So I don't think they're gonna saddle the Ford sales team with general products. So I'm gonna take the approach. I don't think General is gonna be have a presence at this. I think it's an important show for Fords. They haven't had a trade show since they formed.
Right, and I remember, speaking to a few of the guys at TPE, it was presented to me like, look, I mean, we pulled out of the trade show. It's a lot of money to go to PCA. At the same time, we were getting Forge started, getting a sales team built and all this, and all the money and resources that we put into that. And, they've been doing that for a few years. Obviously, they've acquired 2 brands to add to that portfolio in that time. I think this is a good time. I think this is a good time to have them back. We were hoping that they would be back eventually, but I think everyone was I don't want to say like completely shocked, but I think there was a surprise, like, oh shit, like they're going to be back this year. But to add to Coop, to your point, I think it's great because they have Forge kind of, you know, where it needs to be now. It's set up, it's established, it's running. They have new brands to showcase. They can now come to a trade show and be like, hey, this is Forge Cigar Company, and this is who we are and what we have. And it's going to be a nice focus on just them and not the general products that are outside of the Forged portfolio.
Yeah, I think this is a very good thing. I said the long winter is over, so I mean, they're officially coming back. They've said they're coming back. I've heard some spins put on this story that it was only being done because they had to use the Alec Bradley booth. I'm not necessarily buying that. They did go out of their way to make a statement.
That's a good
point.
point.
With the PCA on this. Yeah, they went out of their way to make a statement with the PCA. And yes, they're not guaranteed for next year, but I think any company is probably going to take it on a year-to-year basis at this point. So I think this is an extremely good thing. And
I think. Sorry, just to add to what.
No, you're good. I was just stumbling, so that's good.
Well, just to add to what you just said there, I'm pretty sure I heard Jay Davis, who's usually in the comments with us, but he's not here tonight. Maybe he'll chime in, but I thought I heard Jay Davis make a kind of a comment like, oh, and that's like when that was announced, like, oh, that was another reason for moving the trade show. And I think that when PCA announced that, hey, like we're gonna move it to earlier in the year, like everyone's been asking for, that might have also been something that some of the four, if not all of the four, you know, were like, hey, like we don't like going out there in July. Like, we're not gonna go. Fuck that. And now that they see PCA's made that commitment, like, hey, like we're gonna move it. We're trying to, you know, help everyone out and listen to concerns. And it's like, oh, okay, well, hey, you know what? Let's head back this year. Alec Bradley's got the booth there, and then next year, you know, hey, maybe if we have a good show, maybe we come back again. It's gonna be earlier in the year, whatever. So it sounds like maybe that contributed as well. Like, hey, the timing of the trade show.
Yeah, Regis actually said it in the press release that he was, you know, I guess that was a contributing reason. I'm sure there were other reasons going on with that, but the fact he did say that, and in good faith, they're coming this year to the trade show. So, you know, I have, you know, you guys know my opinion on it. I haven't been as positive as everyone else has been. But you can't deny that there were, like I've said it a lot, you can't deny people wanted that trade show out of July, not just from a retail, but from a manufacturing standpoint. And here's a good example. Why I'm wrong. You know, power. You know, good job here is what I'll say.
And maybe it's not like the date move. Maybe it's not as big of a deal as sometimes we make these things out to be. Like you said, like. But yeah, I think there is positive things already coming out of the move, and yeah, it's STG. STG is the first one back, and I think we're going to see follow suit of other people, whether it's this year or next year.
My prediction, I think, you know, we see STG this year, and provided, you know, that they're in for multiple years. Especially if they have a good show this year and they're like, all right, like, you know, we're going to come back. I mean, this was good. And, you know, we like the earlier time of the year. And, you know, we see some changes being made. There's been some leadership changes. I know Scott Pierce mentioned that recently, that, you know, some of them wanted some changes in the leadership and whatever. And some of those changes have been made. And those people have had some time to show what they can do. I think that's, like Coop said, there's several reasons why. It wasn't any one reason. It was several reasons. And I think a lot of those things, I think, have changed at this point. And I think General was in a great spot to say, let's jump back in. I think them jumping back in, and they have a good show. They come back for 24, and, you know, they're like, you know, hey, we're in. I think you'll see Altadas follow suit. Be like, well, you know what? Like, let's Foyer back in. I think eventually maybe you see Drew Estate come back in. What I don't see coming back is Davidoff. I don't see Davidoff coming back to the trade show. If they do, it'll be a long way away, and they'll definitely be the last. That's my prediction.
You look at I think Davidoff, if they come back, will be with Avo and Camacho. But I agree they'll be last.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know, let's go back 3 years ago for a second with the PCA. And this was a state of the PCA about 3 years ago. They were coming off an absolute abomination of a bad trade show in 2019. They had the pandemic hit that caused the cancellation of the 2020 trade show. They had the Big Four withdraw. They had the furlough of the whole staff. They have done a great job at just kind of climbing out of that hole. And, there were people wondering if the PCA trade show was even going to be going on anymore. I mean, you remember those talks, Matt, when it was doom and gloom. The PCA appeared to be done. Like, especially when the staff got from.
Yeah, it was scary.
Credit to Scott Pierce, Greg Zimmerman, the board. They have done a tremendous job. And I might not, like I said, I might not agree with every decision. That's not necessarily. I can't expect to agree with every decision they make, but let me tell you something. They deserve a lot of credit, and they all deserve credit. They've done a fantastic job. I never thought in 3 years would they get to this point. So great job there.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Coop's
And
right.
as Matt said, Scott Pierce was just recently interviewed on Dojo, and he himself mentioned, again, this was him not confirming, he mentioned that he is in continuous talk with all of the Big Four, and that based off of the feelings and just the average talking they're having, he thinks there's a good chance of 3 out of the Big Four being back next year. Again, he said, this is 100% speculation.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But based off of what he said, it sounds like there's a very good chance that 2 or 3 may be back next year. And you know what? Matt, we actually kind of mentioned this. Hoya de Nicaragua has a booth. And
Yeah,
That's true too.
And
that was
Drew
something
Estate may, they could make some form of decision to possibly bring in some product there in a small capacity.
I doubt they will. I doubt they will.
I doubt they will too, but I'm just
but
saying.
Mitchell's right. Me and Mitchell were having a team meeting and looking at the show floor together, and I happened to see that. I go, "Hey, look at that right there, Hoya de Nicaragua." And I really piqued my interest. I go, "Huh, so they're going to be at PCA this year."
Yeah, Juan Martinez actually confirmed it with me when I saw him at the Great Smoke. So he told me point blank they were coming back this year. They were very excited to come back. He said it's gonna be much smaller scale than they were used to at Drew Estate. But I think it was an important move for Hoya to come back. It's a big anniversary year for them, and I think they the oldest factory in Nicaragua. They should be there, and I don't think it affects anything with the relationship with Drew Estate. But Hoya's entitled to come. Look, Ferrier Tego goes to the trade show without Davidoff, so it happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still exciting to see Hoya's name on the. It's like, oh wow, this is great. To see them. I mean, granted,
It
Hoya
really is.
It's a little bigger than Ferrier Tego, so it's like, wow, that's pretty big.
Good people too at the Hoya team. I've really gotten to know the Hoya team over the last few months. And there's really good people there. So they've been putting some new staff in as well. So it's great that they're going to be there.
They make some great cigars. They really do.
Yeah.
My favorite
Really
thing that they make is the Numero Uno. I love that collection. I mean, all the sizes are great. Love the blend. Those are great. Those are some great cigars. Excited to see them at the trade show. Is there anyone else? Now, I remember last year, I believe, and Coop, we talked about this because I think it happened last minute. AJ Fernandez was not at the trade show last year, right?
He is not at the trade show, and from like I said, I've been doing the big board, which is based off the PCA floor plan. I've not seen him on there yet, so I don't have him as a no, but I just have him as it's not committed.
But he was a no last year, though, right?
He was a no.
I don't remember him being there.
Yeah, I firmly believe that that's going to be tied to the Altadis decision. I can't see him not being there if Altadis is not there. But yeah, they were not there last year, and they were missed. I gotta be honest, they were missed. It's always fun to cover the AJ booth. We interviewed AJ a couple years ago. It was great. So that was the first time we had an opportunity to do that. So I'm hoping that they end up, we see them come up on the list at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. Me too. A lot of the same reasons. We have a question here from Kevin O'Connor. What are the reasons why some of the larger companies don't participate in the PCA? Well, this is a very good question. and it's something that's been talked about a lot. But
I think it just comes down to the overall business practices that the entire Big Four encompass is a larger thing than just premium cigars. And they felt that at the time, premium, the PCA wasn't aligning with their total business plan. At least that's from my perspective from what I've
Mitchell
heard.
gave a very diplomatic answer to money. And
It's
Coop
money.
gave a
It
very
was a
literal answer of money.
But
It's money.
there were a lot of issues. There's costs. There was ROI. I think a lot was doing with the whole thing on flavors. I think played into that with some
Flavors,
Yes.
folks.
That was a
Uh,
significant part of it too. That the PCA
The-
wasn't showing enough support on those products that those Big Four manufacturers do a lot of business in.
The board was an issue. They
Yep.
only had
That's another issue.
they only had really one seat on the board. They've expanded that. It's not so I think
Yep,
they've made some
representation.
concessions in that area. There's more representation on there.
Yep.
So I think the time of the year was. I don't think that was as big an issue, but they were coming off that bad trade show in 2019. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys weren't. I don't know if you guys weren't at 2019. That
No.
was such a bad trade show. I mean, look, I got the PCA pissed at me when I wrote about that. Okay, it was an embarrassment to our industry that year, so that was you coming at it. This show was dead for the last 2 days. I mean, we've seen drop offs. I'm telling you, that was a ghost town the last couple of days of that 2019 show. So, they had, but give credit. They made changes. They made fixes. They're doing things to improve the trade show itself. I can't say enough what they're doing. So, Rome isn't built in a day, guys. But you got to be positive. I've not, got to be positive on this PCA right now. I have a lot of confidence in who's leading that right now.
It's a upward trajectory from that time for sure.
100%.
I can't agree
Yeah.
more. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Especially even again, 2021 was Matt. That was your first as media going, right?
Yes,
They planned that show in 100 days.
they did.
Give
Yeah.
them that was much better than the 2019 show that they had a whole year to plan. Okay, there's just so much they did. And we knew coming out of 2021 that 2022 was gonna be good. And I didn't hear a lot of complaints, unless you're a guy like Riste from JSK who's gonna complain about everything. For the most part, I didn't hear a lot of complaints. It was hard to really knock the PCA last year on anything. I knocked them on one thing last year. It was a COVID thing, but that was it. But I didn't think that was a terrible thing either.
I
At
agree.
the end of the day, it was just a logistical problem.
It was. It's a philosophical thing more
Yeah,
too. For people.
exactly.
But okay. But you know what? Again, Mitchell, you were there. I mean, was that your first show?
Yep.
I mean, so Mitchell, for example, you were working the United booth, right?
I was helping him out.
Yeah. You guys were busy that last afternoon, like those last 4 hours. You guys were busy. I know you
That
were.
last-
I had to hand Oliver.
that
I
last
had to
day
literally
was
hand
crazy.
Oliver's award while he was talking to a customer. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that last day was crazy for them. They had
Yeah,
big names
so-
in their booth. There was
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
foot traffic, and I
Yeah.
think people had heard about that booth throughout the trade show, and were literally just coming by to look at it, like from
Yeah,
other
it
brands, other companies, and they were doing business.
The
Yeah.
selected booth.
So
Selected,
selected
yeah.
booth. Yep. So and they were adjacent with United pretty much. So
Yeah.
Matt, we were there the first hours. So it was kind of quiet when we got there, but it started popping after that.
Well, going
And,
into that trade show, you and I had talked about this so many times. We were like, there's 4 people we got to get in and get out right away so we can be done for the rest of the show, and United was at the top of that list. And I think it was me who was in there, and then right after me it was you, and then we were done for the rest of the trade
Yeah.
show.
And look, they came out with a product at that trade show. Alfonso, your #1 cigar of the year.
That's right.
It's going to be on. I'm telling you, it's going to be on my list very high this year. I haven't put the review out yet,
Yeah.
but I'm not in a rush. I have a few months to do it, but
Has the review
yeah,
been completed? Just curious.
it's very good. Yes,
Mm.
I have 2 reviews complete because I've reviewed 2 sizes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a very good cigar. Look, that was a #1 cigar in half wheel.
Yeah.
It showed up on several lists. So your list, obviously, #1. No one could really argue that. #1. No one could argue it.
No, it
No.
was great.
Yeah.
It was.
So they lived up. They didn't just have they lived up to it. Is what I'm saying. Coming out of that booth.
What's interesting to me is we saw that last year. I think this year we're going to see the Nelson collection, or at least that's what we were told we were hopefully going to see this year.
We may. I don't know if they're going to push it or not. I mean,
I
Oliver
don't
seems
know.
a little hesitant. Oliver, when I interviewed him in December, didn't seem like that decision was made yet.
Oh, okay.
But you don't know. I mean, I think it'll be a showcase, but maybe I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I think it's a different product than Alfonso. So,
Yep.
which
True.
I love the packaging on that Nelson too.
If they have like, if they give, I think they might give the Alfonso some room to breathe. And I don't know if they have other Vitolas coming out in their current lines, but yeah, they might just give the Alfonso, especially after all the accolades they got through this last year, just some time to breathe and just really, work
Yeah.
in the market.
And they have another Alfonso line also on the pipeline.
They
That
do.
they were
There you
actually
go.
showing off. There was a second Alfonso line. I don't think we'll see that second Alfonso line this year. I think something will be released this year from Selected. They have, I think but what it is, whether it's a line extension or what a Nelson, I don't know.
That's true. I was just going to say there's another Alfonso. So the Alfonso that is out now. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. Long day. Has that white and the beautiful white and blue band box. There's another Alfonso, different blend with a darker wrapper. It features black and red packaging and a black and red band. And I actually have renderings of it, not with me, but I have them
Grand
somewhere.
Selection. There's the Grand Selection.
Correct. Coop's right.
Yep.
And we're excited for whenever that does come out. It seems as though there's something already built and prepared for it.
Yeah.
But when we actually see it on the market, we don't know. Nelson
Yeah.
is definitely more mysterious than other cigar makers, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even the Atabey humidor didn't come out that last year.
Right.
I mean, that big Atabey humidor.
The black one.
The black one. I mean, so that's something we may see this year. They couldn't wait to show that off.
That was beautiful.
It was
They dropped some more Byron humidors this year, though, I think, right?
Yeah, they went. I think they probably you don't want to compete with the Byron humidors, which they did as well, which were really really beautiful as well. So
David comments.
yeah, so
sorry, not to go off course a little bit, but I just got interested. David comment a little off topic. I wish either Matt or Coop would have an in-depth interview with AJ or Don Pepin.
tough to get them to do
Very
interviews.
tough.
I have interviewed Pepin. It's a written interview on Coop from like 2014. So they did not want to do a video. Well, I couldn't do a video. I didn't have a translator. That was.
Because I don't think Pepin speaks
I was
English.
gonna say, yeah.
I had a translator, but
players.
it wasn't. Yeah. It was Jose Ortega, who's good, but I think they wanted to have a better translator.
Yep.
But I did do a written interview with him. That's on Coop. I'll try to throw that on the comments.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And I believe AJ's tough to get. Pepin's tough to get. But yeah, Pepin, I mean, he doesn't speak any English, so you'd have to have a translator. And but it's definitely on the list, David. I mean, it's something that we definitely want to do. So as soon as one of us is able to do that, Coop has a written interview, like you said, but
Yeah.
if there's a more video or audio format to that, we will definitely let everybody know.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't do a lot of period. I mean, we haven't even gotten him on things like KMA or anything like that. So
Right.
we've tried. I know Jose hasn't even gotten him on Meet the Professor. So
Yeah.
that's
That's true.
But you never know. You never know.
It's funny. I actually missed KMA today because I had a late start to my day and I didn't have quite enough time to get to it yet. But how did KMA go today? I know today was going to be
It was good.
an
It was good.
interesting
It
show.
was good. It was good. They had Fake Allen on, and they took it easy on him. I mean, he was a good sport coming on, and that was a whole gag they were playing on him. But it was a good show. We had some fun on it today.
Yeah.
We didn't have a guest or anything. We talked about a bunch of stuff, but nothing like I'd say industry wise that would really break anything.
Yeah, well, I knew they were doing the thing with Allen, so I was just curious. But
You know, he was a good sport on that thing, is what I'm saying. You know, he came on and he didn't have to, so he was a good sport.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. But you know, you know, look, it's not my. They have their thing, you know. My style's a little different. Is what I'm just saying. So, but it's you know, I didn't want to, but he came on, so it was fun.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, KMA is always a fun show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they do a great. I mean, they do. It's fun working with those guys. You know, now I am a regular on that show. I haven't really announced that, but I've been a regular now for couple months now.
A full time.
So
regular.
I'm full time. Yeah.
Not,
yeah.
when they went
to the non-interview format, it made a little more sense for me to be full time. With the interview format, it's tough because I'm interviewing the same people sometimes. So when that happened, it made a little more sense. At this point, they asked me to come on, and I was glad to do it.
It's much more of a round table discussion now. Like interview format, it's always hard to get in every person's point of view, and they already have Abe, Alex, and I don't know, was DeCrocco on today? He hasn't been on in a few weeks, but
yeah, he was on finally.
Oh, there you go.
There was a lot of ball busting on him today.
He wasn't in Disneyland today or anything?
No, but he's going to Disney for his 40th birthday.
Oh man.
Oh, but he's good. Paul's a good guy.
But that's also cool. That's
Paul's
also
great.
another reason why we don't really have guests on this show, because this is really not an interview show. This is more
right. We don't want, you know, look, you have your show, I have my show, and we don't want to bastardize those shows.
right.
So
and the format of the show is different than those.
It's more free. It's more free form. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Open discussion.
Yeah.
So
even the show I do with Bear, we're careful with trying not to cross the lanes with that. So just so you know that.
yeah.
Yep.
Or even when you have Loomis on, you know, because
yeah, we try to be really careful, and you know, usually but we figured a way to get it to work, and it works. We do Bear show. We do some interviews, but we don't. It's mostly non-interview that show. We did a lot of interviews during the pandemic. That was when it filled up, but because everyone wanted a spot on a show.
Yeah.
The we have a comment from David Coop. You need to take over for Paul. Oh man.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not.
not.
I was like, I don't think he wants to do all the extra.
That would be more work.
Hey, you mentioned Bear's name, and Bear's here. Love me some spare pots. Look at that. Bear's here. Bear, thanks for being here with us tonight.
Bear came up on Jukebox today. Just Dave Burke wore a Red Sox hat in honor of you, Bear.
Nice, nice.
He feels bad for what Bear's going through with the Red Sox. So.
Yeah, Bear and I are in that boat together.
Yeah. Yep.
But luckily, we have one of the best hockey teams of all time right now.
Well, you got to get to the playoffs. You got to get through the playoffs now.
Yep.
I didn't say anything about the playoffs. I'm just saying we have a good team right now.
Yeah, that 60-win thing has not been kind to a lot of people. You guys got, first of all, you guys have a great coach in Montgomery. He is. What a hire that was. I said when you guys got him, I knew you guys were going to be in the stratosphere.
Oh, yeah.
He had his problems he had some personal problems down in Dallas. I think otherwise he'd still be coaching that team. But Jim Montgomery is absolutely the Jack Adams coach of the year in my book. What a job he's done.
Playoffs? You want to talk about playoffs? Yeah, Bear. Playoffs. It's a long road. It's a long road.
I love me some Monty. Yeah, I love Monty though. He's good. I really like Montgomery. I wish we could have got him for the Flyers. Yep.
I mean, you guys got Tortella.
He's done a good job this year.
It's not bad.
No, we fired the president of the team. So, and I think that there's a new CEO, and I think the new CEO actually sounds like he gives a shit. So we have some hope. I really think that the team will. I feel more confident coming out for next year. Tortorella did a good job this year for us. He really did. But what he had to work with?
Yeah.
And
next year's always another year too. We could see. I think Philly. They have some potential over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I'll just say is I know we're going to be getting into.
Is it Torella? What's his last name? I always get it wrong.
Tortorella. He won a Stanley Cup.
That's what it is.
He's won a Stanley Cup, so he's
Didn't he win it with Tampa? Who did he win that with?
He won it with Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa. Because I thought he was down in Tampa.
Yeah. I actually have a game on in the background. The NCAA hockey championships on tonight, and University of Minnesota is up 2-1.
Hold on,
And-
Coop. Hold on, Coop. I have to address this with Dan. Y'all sounding like Cowboys fans with early year playoff talk. Hey, Dan, the difference here in New England is that we actually go to the playoffs, and a lot of times we actually win it. So, just saying. Sorry.
You know, I want to make a positive comment on the Bruins. Do you remember the 2013? It was the 13 Stanley Cup with the Blackhawks,
Yes.
and they lost. And they lost. Chicago won it in Boston. And let me tell you, the fans couldn't have been. That was such great sportsmanship out of the Boston fans, congratulating the Blackhawks. You know, I think you guys deserve a lot of credit. You know, we hear a lot about bad sportsmanship and all that from fans. That was a model for how you celebrate. And Boston played a great series. They lost 4-2, but they played their hearts out in that series.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll be honest with you. Sorry, excuse me. You know, it's no secret. All the 4 major sports leagues, basketball, hockey, football, baseball, in a long period of time, you know, going back to 60s, 50s, maybe not that far, but, you know, definitely 60s, 70s and onward. You know, you had the Celtics dynasty era, the Bird, the Magic and Larry era, you know, the Brady era, the Bobby Orr era, like all the different eras in like somewhat recent memory, right? To now, there's been a lot of opposing players and teams, and our own players and teams over the years who have publicly said, yeah, playing in Boston is one of the worst places to play. We do have a very, what's the right word? We have a very low tolerant fan base, even for our own players.
The whole Northeast is like that. New York and Philly.
New York is the same way. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think what you just said does say a lot because I mean, we are not afraid to boo our own players, let alone a visiting player. So to congratulate a team to beat us in the Garden, yeah, I mean, I think that does say a lot, you know?
Yeah, and let's not forget, the last time Boston won the Stanley Cup, it was at the expense of our friend. Yeah, but who was at the expense of our friend Mitchell?
I was gonna say we decided to ransack our entire city after that loss.
Thanks, Mitchell.
And that was a shame, but you know that was a good team. That was a tough one. That was a very good hockey team.
Bear, I was not, but I do my research.
Dude,
we thought the Sedins could get it, but they couldn't put it through.
I'm old enough to watch Bird play at Indiana State, so.
Barry, I mean, Coop, you were old enough to remember when they formed the NHL.
Not quite, but I think there were 6 teams when I was born, so I'm pretty sure it was just when they expanded out of 6.
Yeah, the original 6.
Yeah.
All right, here's a little bit of hockey trivia. Who were the original 6 teams?
Well, that's easy.
Is it?
I can name them.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, what is it?
Mm-hmm. Boston Bruins, New York Rangers, Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Red Wings, Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah. Wait, yeah, because the Flyers were not an original 16, right?
Flyers were an expansion team.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There you go.
The Flyers is always the one that I go, wait. And then I go, yeah, that's right, they weren't.
Now, there was some teams before that 6, but that was before the NHL kind of organized. So the ones that kind of survived, they were called the 6, and those were the 6.
Yeah. Bear, Vancouver being rioted seems like such a bizarre concept to me.
It was weird, man. It was really weird.
It was such a shame, too. I mean, and again, when that happens, unfortunately, it's a few people that screw it up for everybody.
Yeah, it really was.
Because now I'm old enough to remember when Vancouver won the NASL championship in soccer, and that was a big deal, Mitchell. There was almost 1 million people out for the parade for that thing in Vancouver. Big deal, and so, you know, it's been a long time since they've won.
It's been a long time since we won anything.
Yeah. It broke my heart. It broke my heart because you guys knocked out the Cosmos, which were my team in soccer. Sold out games at both Vancouver and New York. 70,000 at both stadiums. It was a big deal. They were playing at the old, what was it? The old Empire Stadium they used to play at. Vancouver.
Yep. It's a tough city to be a pro sport team. I don't know. We just don't.
Well, you only have the Canucks, right? Because there's no other teams.
We have
they have the Whitecaps.
Whitecaps.
Yeah, but I mean, like our sports, you don't have any of our teams, right? Like you don't have a basketball.
We used to have a basketball team called the Grizzlies.
Yeah, they became the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, we used to have the Grizzlies back when I was a kid.
And
we have a pro lacrosse team.
That was bad ownership. Yeah.
We have a pro lacrosse team. They're terrible. I played lacrosse through my whole youth, and I won't even go to games. It's just sad watching. But yeah, that's it. I don't think there's any plan to bring any more basketball or baseball or anything. There's actually a rumor that they might try to bring in a game for the Mariners and Blue Jays into.
That'd be a good idea. We have the Lions. The Lions are the other team you have.
Oh yeah. I guess yeah.
In Canadian
CFL,
football,
Lions.
Yeah.
They've won actually a few things, so they're not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, no, they're no, yeah.
Anyway, sorry, not to just kind of jump right off, but
we derailed on that.
we really derailed there, but I kind of want to get back on track here for a second.
Sure.
So one of the other things, and Coop, I believe this discussion started on your show this week, and then a little bit of this came up on the Dojo show last night. When Scott Pierce was on, there was some commentary at the end of that show about the media attending PCA, and Eric had suggested that maybe, in an effort to deter a lot of people from attending the show as media, that the PCA should charge them a significant amount of money more to attend the trade show as a way to try to weed out some of the people and I know a lot of that was directed at influencers, but it also, just by the way it was presented by Eric, it also sounded like maybe even some of the actual media who goes maybe too much as well. And I was going to ask you your opinion on that because I didn't catch the other show where I think maybe that conversation was also had.
Yeah, so let me give the background in that conversation, then I'll kind of give you my opinion on it. Because I already give you some of my opinion, but I want to explain it.
Okay.
So one thing that came up on the show that I brought up is I believe that there's several media people that will not be going to the trade show this year.
Okay.
For financial purposes. I'm not going to name the people because that's not fair. But I'll say this, some of them are significant. I'm also hearing of several other media people considering not going in 2024 for similar reasons. So when this came up, Eric kind of said that's not necessarily a bad thing, and then he kind of said I'd like to see the media maybe charge more. As exactly how you said that. I don't disagree with that, by the way. I wouldn't hit. Look, it was at $450 right now. I wouldn't raise us to $1,200 next year. I wouldn't do that. Right?
I think that's a little excessive.
But I do think there's some separating of the men from the boys that needs to happen. I am not against paying a PCA due because it goes back to the trade association. But if let's say I did favor an increase, okay, and I'm not, all right. The only way I would say that is if the PCA absolutely enforces a rule that manufacturers cannot give badges out to people who are going around filming. I mean, that has to be a rule.
I agree with that.
You have to wear a media badge if you're going to shoot video or sit down with a manufacturer in a non-business capacity. Because if you do what Eric says, you're going to create a bigger problem if you don't address that as a piece.
Yeah.
So, and I do think there's some issues going on right now financially that could be affecting several media brands. And it's not so much that they're doing bad. It's getting more expensive to go to the trade show. So sponsor money is becoming more important. There's only a limited amount of sponsor money out there. So I do think that's part of the problem that's going on. So, but I would say, no, it wouldn't be a deterrent. If you raised it to $1,000, right? Could you picture what would happen? You'd have like these booths that have like these booths get a ridiculous amount of badges, right?
Right.
You would see all these people come in, and the problem is I see people who are hired as a booth photographer, and then they're off doing interviews and stuff like that. And the problem is they shouldn't be doing that, right? They shouldn't be. And on top of that, it's taking time away from us who are paying to go there and do this. So that's the problem that I'm seeing right now.
Well, yeah, because look, first of all, I think you made a good point. You raise the price, then you just see more of those lower tier people who are normally getting in on media. You see more of them trying to get in on manufacturers' badges, and people like Rocky Patel and others who have been known to hand out badges like they're going out of style. So those people are still going to be there. The way I look at it is like you raise the prices, those people are still going to be there. Your plan didn't work, and then the rest of us are just paying more money to go to the show for a fundamental reason that doesn't work. And like you said, I don't mind paying money to the PCA because of what it does, but at the same time, it's like, there is a cost. There's a cost of that. There's a cost to fly there, stay there, all of that stuff. So it's like it just adds to the overall cost. So it's like, I don't believe that is an effective strategy. And to be honest with you, I think that's kind of a foolish idea, personally. Just throwing it out there in the universe.
Foolish for what? Foolish for what?
Well, I just if anyone had the idea that we're going to raise the prices to try to separate the men from the boys and get less media to come to the show because there's too much media out there, or whether that is just the influencers or it includes even some actual media people. I don't think that's the way to go about that, because I don't see it working, and all I do is seeing it just raising the cost for the rest of us who do spend the money to go there and do legitimate media coverage.
But Matt, by your own admission, okay, one of the complaints you had a couple of years ago, okay, was someone shooting interviews on a cell phone.
I agree,
okay?
But I don't think raising the prices dramatically is the way to solve that problem.
But should those people? Yeah, but the question is,
because I just don't think that's going to keep them out. I think they're still going to find a way to weasel themselves in.
Well, and that's what I mean. You have to address the other problem first before you even entertain doing something like this. I do hear what you're saying, but there's limited amounts of time we get with these manufacturers too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. If you're showing up there and you don't have media on your lanyard, you shouldn't even. This should be a non-issue.
Well, I agree with that.
You'll never get. But the problem is the manufacturers will never cooperate. That's the other problem.
But I just said that. I just said.
Yeah.
If the idea is let's raise the prices astronomically, so that less people want to go. If you think that's going to keep, maybe some of them out, but if you think that's going to keep the people who we really don't want there, for those reasons from going, they're going to still go. They're going to get in with manufacturers, and then the rest of us who still go to do what we do are just paying more money, which I don't think that is the fundamental way to do it. I think there needs to just be a stricter vetting process, maybe an interview process. I think that the PCA needs to come down harder on the manufacturers. Like, hey, who are you giving the badges out to? Like, I just don't. My point is that I don't think that just by raising the prices high to try to keep people out is the answer, because I don't think it's going to work, and I think it's just going to make it more expensive. As to what you just said, it's already expensive to go to the trade show, so it's like we're going to make it higher for it to not do what you think it's going to do, and then it's like, it's just more expense.
I think the intention is good there from Eric, but again, it's just an idea at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Dan's
right. That's why I said you have to address this problem. You have to address the problem, and the way you address it's not just giving out the badges. If you're showing up at a booth without a media tag, you should not be allowed to do the interview. I mean, that's what it needs to be, and it's going to be impossible to enforce it. I get it.
And Dan says it's not the manufacturers won't cooperate. We don't want random people talking shit when we say no. So basically, so what are they? So
They're
what
gonna
do you,
talk
so,
shit about you one way or another.
Yeah, Dan, they're
That's
gonna
my
talk shit
opinion.
one way or the other. So
They'll find
essentially,
something else.
what you're saying is you're gonna have people in your booth because you're afraid that they're gonna talk shit about the brand, that they're probably gonna talk shit about one way or the other anyway.
Yeah, that's they'll find something else to complain about. Um, but there are legitimate manufacturer badges that are handed out to people who work booths. Mitchell worked the booths last year.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Saka bring some people in they're not employees of his company, but they work really hard. Chris does it from Hawaii. Stace, my buddy Stace from North Carolina, did it for several years.
Yep.
Dan had someone in his booth that was working this year. So there are, and these are not the people we're targeting, is what I'm saying. I'm telling you, there was one company, they had a photographer, and the photographer was off doing his own thing for 3 days after he did the thing he had to do at the one booth. And I'm like, and he's shooting content, right? He's shooting content that is, for to promote his own brand. So that's where I have the problem. That's where that needs to stop.
And I think
what did Scott say on this comment? What did Scott say on this comment? I didn't see the show.
From what I remember, Scott said that they have played with ideas of introducing some sort of like vetting process where they do end up looking into it a bit more. I know that right now that there's like a bit of a to get a media badge, you have to have like a website and a few extra things. But I think they were talking about making it a more intensive application process. I don't know if they really had a plan to deter like you mentioned, the person coming in under another badge with a cell phone in their pocket and then doing a day of work and then going out for 3 days creating content. I don't think they have anything implemented or even thought about in terms of like how to mitigate that or stop it. Because we want as many people on the show floor as possible, right? But
it's I'm not trying to discourage a lot either, but I also think there's a point where they're gonna have to say there's too much media there.
I
agree. And the vetting, there was a vetting process about when I came in 2011. I put this binder together, and I had to show all these points of what I was doing. I had to send the binder to Columbus, Georgia, which is where the IPCBR headquarters were, and I went through that because that was the first year they started doing it, but it gradually just disappeared. So, and it's something I've been asked about. I don't want to get involved with it with the PCA. I've told them that. So
now with what, Dan mentions here, we should include influencers, and it's right. Like, they provide a different medium, and like, I'm fine if they come in under media and are taking pictures and they've been vetted and are, a true source of influence.
Yeah.
But them to like take up say like interview time and like be in the face of people asking for samples and wanting interview time and wanting time one-on-one with primaries from the company, that's where it kind of gets a little tricky. But I think another thing he mentioned was, again, it's kind of in the rough, but like having possibly like a media time, like you mentioned like the hour before we come in.
Yeah.
And so people come in and it's like, okay, here's media time. And then there's like trade show time. But again, they want media on the floor during the trade show too. So
you need to capture the vibe of the show.
Exactly. And that's what he said. There's a huge hole in that with the fact that like, I don't think manufacturers want to stand there for 8 hours straight doing the same interview over and over and over and over again for a whole day, like they would be doing if that was the case. But I think it really just does come down to the manufacturers saying we're only going to accept interviews from people with media badges, and then those media badges have to be vetted, and that's kind of, and then see how it goes from there. The other thing would be possibly creating a system where when you get a media badge, you get to sign up for media slots, and manufacturers bring out media slots available, and you sign up for that slot, and then you show up for that slot, and then you get that time to interview them, and they don't do interviews outside of that. That's a huge logistical nightmare. Again, I don't think most manufacturers will want to do that, and making the PCA organize that, I don't know if that's really a thing, but just throwing out ideas, really.
Yeah, I know. Like from my personal standpoint, first of all, I don't like. I've heard the press conference idea. Don't. I don't even people. That's a bad idea
I
if you
don't
don't
think it's
capture
a
the
good
vibe.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they have had these like media hours where the media comes in there. I've become less of a fan of those lately for a lot of reasons. They don't give us the same results because everyone's hearing the same thing. So that's not a I think part of I understand there's some repetition, but you got to let every media brand have their lane and do some things. Like Matt's going to ask, and you guys are going to ask some questions that are different than Bear and I may ask, right? And our team asks. So, um, I think you kind of need to have that now. If it's, I understand spontaneously showing up at a booth is not the best thing either. Sometimes either. So sometimes you have to do that though.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
I
true.
wouldn't favor if there's slots, but I would say I'd want the slot dedicated to me because everyone's trying to have their own spin on this right now.
It's true.
So
Exactly.
yeah, I mean we've had some talk. We're going to be doing some things a little different this year, not big, but there's things we recognize that I brought to the team. We're going to be doing some things I think to kind of capture some areas where we were a little weaker at. And the other thing is we have really the bread and butter, in addition to the videos, is the booth coverage we do. So while we don't go 150 booths like Half Wheel, we have found going about 70 booths is a good number as well. We're not going to get to. We found splitting up doesn't work for our team, so we try to stay together because we all have specialized roles in what we do.
Right, and so the Coop team does things that they do. This is the first time that we'll be bringing a full team of 4 of us to the trade show, and Mitchell and I and Kevin and the rest that are part of that team have begun talking about our attack plan, and we'll do things our way. Again, like to Coop's point, everyone does their thing differently, and we lost Coop. I don't know. Did he drop? Yeah, I think he dropped out. I don't know what happened. He'll probably call back.
His internet was getting a little choppy for a second there, so.
Yeah. Oh, here he is. Sorry. Let's bring him back in. And sorry, Coop, we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, pro drop. I just re-entered.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, like I was saying, like you said, everyone does their thing different. The Smoke and Tobacco team is going to do things their way. The Coop team, the Coop coalition rather, will do things their way. You guys are going to have your own spin and vibe on how you do your interviews. We're going to have our own spin. I will be doing interviews. Mitchell will be doing interviews on the trade show floor. So now there's multiple personalities on the Smoke and Tobacco team versus I think on the Coop team mostly Bear just does your interviews at Cigar Coop.
Right. Bear is really good at it. Everyone has an opportunity sometimes to participate in some things though. So I remember we did the soccer interview. I think we all sat around except for poor Ben who had to do the camera work. So
right.
And I tend to just do more. Like now I have the freedom to do the written piece really well, which I never had that. And Bear is just really good at what he does. He's a good roving reporter. I saw that with him, having him the first 2 years, and I went to Bear and I said, we need to kind of build on your strength here. And then we were planning on doing some booth coverage. We brought Nielsen in, and then Ben became available to Cigar Coop, and that everything just clicked. So the first year we did it, we were kind of all over the place. I think we did a good job. Last year, I think we had the machine honed. I think exactly we know what we need to do now.
Yeah, I think last year was one of your best years as a team.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. I mean, thank you. It was, but there's some things we know we have to improve on. We need to get a better camera next year for Nielsen this year, which we're going to do. So there's little things that we know we can improve on. Last year we had to address the mic situation, which was a disaster. So,
this is a message to all manufacturers at the trade show. I don't know if this is even possible. Take cellophane off your cigars, please. Like, it is awful taking pictures of cigars with cellophane from what I do at my house. I always take it off, and I see trade show pictures with cigars in cellophane, and they just look terrible. Like the light shines.
Are you talking about like when they're in like a display?
Yeah, in the display case.
This industry needs help with display cases. In general, they need look. There are some booths like Selected Tobacco. They have it perfect, right?
Yeah.
There are other booths. I mean, I remember the Casada booths like about 8 or 9 years ago. It used to be like this fishbowl, like an aquarium. It looked like, right? And the problem is the way the light would come, it would come in one side out the other. It was impossible to take pictures. Now they would be good and take stuff out for us, but it takes time for them to do that. So I
Yeah,
kind of wish, if anything, give
You
these
know,
guys some advice on lighting here.
you know who
lighting
you know who's got
and
it down really well, that I think makes a lot of sense. And to Mitchell's point, is like Drew Estate, Steve Saka. Gee, I wonder why that's a coincidence. Uncellophaned
Foundation.
in foundation. Good point. In foundation, uncellophaned in the box, glued in the box, so people can't take them out, and then you have a broken set on display. You know those cigars are going to sit out and whatever. They're not going to be good. They're not saving them, but they're there for a purpose. They're there for the display. They're in the box, uncellophaned. No one's going to take them out because they're glued in, and then but they're there and they look right. They look good in a photo. I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, and we've actually tried to be real respectful. Like typically we won't grab a product. We'll say, hey, can you move it or something? We'll always ask them. We don't want to mess their displays up or anything like that. So we always are respectful for that. Because sometimes we do have to ask them to move the product for a lot of reasons. Even if it's out of the cellophane, sometimes it is bad light and stuff like that, or it's too high or too low. So for the most part, we've asked all the time with that, and most manufacturers, they accommodate with that. So they've done a good job with that. The Fuente booth is a little tough to do that with because it's more like a museum, but but at least I can get pictures in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And was it right here? Jay said Ferry Tigo does a solid job with no selling display too. Yeah, that's another good example. Michael had I thought the last PCA he had the glass cases, he had the boxes in there open like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the great booth is CLE's booth because they don't use cellophane for the most part.
Yeah, that's another one. Great display.
And
Coop, I know
the
you.
product makes it.
And Coop, I don't. And speaking of CLE, because you didn't go to TPE, so you haven't seen the new boxes. But so if we're going into PCA, they have the brand new boxes that they're coming out with now that we saw at TPE, and we'll see them at PCA without the cellophane. So there's another good shelf presentation as well.
Yeah, and they got some PR help, which they desperately needed now. So
they did, and I think we lost Mitchell. I think Mitchell's frozen.
I think Mitchell froze. Yeah, he'll have to come in and come out.
He's still connected for some reason.
Yeah,
but he's not.
Yeah,
here.
sometimes the server or whatever. Yeah, he'll come back in.
Anyway, but yeah, no, you're right. Good point. They have our friend Gabriel. His oop, here we go. There you are. He's back.
Yep.
Has taken over the CLE PR, which has been great.
Yeah, and he took over Miami Cigar, which also needed help. So I think two good. He used to do Miami Cigar years ago, so it's two good moves for him. He's done a great job with a lot of companies over the years, so he knows what he's doing. And CLE, great products. I think that was the one piece they've always been missing, is kind of media engagement, and they have now someone with Gabriel who can do that.
So, Coop, we have an interesting comment here, and as someone who's been around since the dark times for cigar media, I'm going to let you answer this first, because you've been around a long time.
Yep.
John says, I am rethinking this. There was a time when y'all were the startup media and just trying to get your foot in the door. Shouldn't you give some startup media the same chance?
Absolutely, and we encourage that, but we can't, they have to play by the rules like everybody else does, is what I would say. I think it is important to have. John makes a really good point, and I agree with him. So I do think we should be, but this is really, you just can't let anyone in, and the PCA has to do a good job of that, because there's probably Matt, you're a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in when you did. So, but for your own mission, you probably had an easy vetting process, too. So I do think new people should absolutely have that chance.
Pretty established too.
Yeah,
I had a lot to show.
There was a guy I met. He was at this first trade show. It was Tim from. I'm sorry.
Tim Long?
Forgetting it. Tim Long.
Yeah.
And we met at the Crown Heads booth.
Great guy.
We just talked, and he was picking my brain on stuff, and that's what we should be doing. We should be giving these new guys an absolute chance to do that. And I'll say this, no one did that for us, John, back when I did it. In fact, a lot of the existing bloggers were pretty shitty to me. So
I only had one person really help me. So, and that person knows who he is.
Yeah.
So, for
So
those,
yeah, no, John, you're 100% right, and I think that's an important thing that we should all be conscious of. Whatever things we're talking about bringing into the trade show, he's 100% right. Good point.
And again, I think we mentioned that. I think we said that there is a space for them, but we need
Yeah,
to
we,
maybe create some borders, create some boundaries,
yeah,
because
yeah.
if it becomes flooded, we all get
Yeah.
washed away.
So let me give you a use case of something that was a problem, and this was a couple years ago. And Matt, you're very familiar with it. There was some influencers who got onto the trade show floor. Okay, they were given manufacturer badges, but they weren't really. It wasn't really about them covering the trade show as much as it was selling calendars and things like that. That was a problem. Like if an influencer came in and covered the trade show, um, you know, like Kevin Shahan came last year for one day. He did a very unique perspective on the trade show. I think it was, for one day, I think he did a good job, and that was he actually turned down a manufacturer badge, and actually ended up going in with there was a media thing that I think got him in. I'm okay with that, but he was doing media stuff with that, right? And I'd encourage him to get his own thing going forward because I think it would help his brand. But yeah, the problem is it was someone coming in and selling calendars. Years ago, it was someone coming in and treating it like a HERF instead of like a trade show, like opening up a bag for trick or treating. Which it was one or two people in 2010, and we paid the price for 10 years after that. It was bad. So yeah,
we're there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we've had new guys. Matt Ties come in. How about that Cigar? Of course, Smoking Tobacco's come in. And so there's a lot of brands that have come in, and they've done a very good job. And certainly, look, if someone needs an introduction to someone, and I like you and I trust you, I'll give you the introduction. So that's not a problem. And I think you've had experiences with that, Matt, where someone actually went out of their way for you as well. So
that's right. That's
yeah.
right. So yeah, again, it's
someone you wouldn't think. Someone you wouldn't think, by the way. But yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, but again, to John's question, it's not that we're trying to. And to be honest with you, when I first heard what I heard, I kind of took it like, my impression of it. And again, people can disagree or whatever, but my impression of what I heard was, people who made certain comments were like just trying to keep it to the small handful of real OG people, and they felt that they were the only ones that should be there. And
that's certainly the case.
And that should not be the case, but that's how I took that based on how and what was said. That's why I brought it. That's part of the reason why I brought it up tonight.
So,
and it's not just about keeping people out. It's just the people who treat it like their playground.
But I think you have to put something in place. Like that's why let's kind of go to the other side. There was this movement for about a bunch of bloggers were fighting to get the trade show fees wiped out. And I was actually against that for two reasons. One is, again, it was going to encourage people, to come that probably shouldn't be, that would really need to be vetted.
Right.
And if they're not going to be vetted, it's a problem. The other problem is, frankly, look, this is still supporting the PCA. This is
agree.
Everything you. So
100%.
Then the biggest complaint for years was, I know a lot of people felt strong about the lunch ticket thing, and it sucked. Media didn't get lunch tickets, and that should have been fixed. That was a sponsor issue, from what I understand. Like the sponsors didn't want to pay for it. So now I don't think there's a lunch ticket issue anymore.
There isn't.
Yeah. So it's solved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's solved. Yeah. But like I said, and like I said, my thing back then is they should have got a sponsor to say, hey, we got to cover our media people too. So I don't think the old IPCPR prior to Scott fought for that. So that was a problem too.
It's something like that. It's like I think that, if you attend the trade show, you attend the trade show.
Yeah.
On little stuff like that. It's like it's like
Sounds like we're all pretty much on the same boat of that.
Yeah, like I said, I think I feel a little different than maybe Matt on this, but I don't favor raising the trade shows to $1,300 either. But I think there's other things that need to be fixed before that even is considered. By the way, I do believe we're going to have a PCA dues increase at some point anyway. I can't see it not continuing at this. Everything's going up. So.
I can see that.
Yeah, and I understand
Yeah.
that. I just don't think that I just felt like, I don't think the media should exclusively be, dramatically increased as a way
Yeah.
to deter, because
Yeah.
that's just not going to help the situation anyway.
I have just something I got to mention.
What's up?
Matt, Ty, and How About That Cigar team's about to just have bad news. University of Minnesota blew a 2-1 lead in the college hockey championship, lost to Quinnipiac 3-2.
Oh,
Man.
So it's going to be a somber Minnesota sports report Monday night. I can just show you on How About That Cigar.
And I believe the
Yep.
Wild are in a 3-way tie for first place with the
Yep.
NHL. So depending on how
Yep.
that plays out,
Yep.
with a
Yep.
couple of games left. Ooh,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. But back to what Dan said, the lunch ticket thing was years ago. I think it discontinued. I want to say 2018, 2017, maybe it was discontinued. So, yeah, there's no more lunch tickets. But there used to be lunch tickets.
now, sorry, Matt. We're kind of getting a little far into it, but there was something that Scott Pierce brought up yesterday that I know Coop's gonna, you've mentioned a lot about New Orleans, and Scott Pierce said there will be a location change in 2025. He pretty much guaranteed that, and he said there will be a press release in about a month of where it's
Now,
going to be.
We knew that.
But
So
we knew it's because they already floated New Orleans out there. It's not a secret. The question is, do they have another location? I don't think so. From what I've been able to ascertain and information I got, I don't think they're negotiating with another city. So
now the
Oh,
interesting thing he also said.
Jay Davis is now with us, so maybe Jay can probably. But he actually does have a big point too, which I want to circle back to, Jay. So don't worry.
The interesting thing he did say was that they're willing. It sounded like it would actually save the PCA a lot of money going to New Orleans. The second thing, or at least like they were offering it at a really good rate. The other thing, he said that they were going to offer us pretty much like the ability to close down an entire block or two and allow people after the trade show to pretty much take over that space as like an outdoor block party herf and have like all the restaurants in the area supply food and drink, and we pretty much like control like a block or two of restaurants and drinks and can smoke just outside however we want. I don't know what the weather's like in March, so I don't know if that's
it
really...
could be a little cold there, could rain.
I'm sure they can bring heaters in, tents and stuff. So
yeah. My problem is with New Orleans is that that will address the logistical issue, which is good. My issue is I don't think we should be giving this trade show to New Orleans. That's my issue.
Yeah,
that's my issue.
You and Eric both had that with the fact that all their rules and regulations they've already put in to bring down this industry in the state or in the area. So
is it like I'd like to see a concession someone introduce something like, hey, we'll at least try to introduce something to ease this up a bit. That's something that maybe that will happen. And if that does, that's great. At the same time, I got to be fair to the PCA. They may not have many choices in this matter.
I think that was another big one.
Yeah, so we got to be fair to them. But I'll give the PCA. This is where I give Scott and them credit. They really try to think out of the box, and this is I can't fault them for that. The board does a great job with that too. They're thinking out of the box on things. They deserve some credit on that. Like I said, if we have to go to New Orleans. But the vibe will be. I don't think it will have the same vibe, but we'll see. I mean, let's give it. We may have to give it a shot to see before we knock it.
I think he also mentioned like that. Well, I don't know if again I just got this. I guess I inferred this. He said, we're going to change it in 2025, and he mentioned that every time it had gone away from Vegas and come back, numbers have spiked. So when he said that, I kind of assumed, okay, well, we're going to go away for a year, but expect it to come back to Vegas.
Yeah. So 2015 was the New Orleans trade show. None of us have good memories of that trade show. It was probably the other. It wasn't quite as bad as the 2019 one, but back then we had no play we had no setup like that. So you were going all around town, going places, and it was in July. like almost 100% humidity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. It would be Dallas. I mean, you know the answer is. Oh, he mentioned these three cities. I think Nashville. Some things have to happen, in Dallas, which would be Fort Worth. Some things have to happen. I'd
Yep.
love to see. I'd love to see it go to Nashville. Don't get me wrong. Nashville would be like I could drive there. So I am very yeah, I'm very excited about that.
I wanted to. I was trying to get caught up on some of the other comments here, but I do want to circle back. So Jay brought up this right here, which I know definitely applies to Coop. Staying on property helps the PCA a lot with the hotel attrition. I know you all like your compounds, but it would be cool to have some media staying on property, but only if they get a break on their badge costs. Thoughts? Question mark.
It doesn't work well for us for a lot of reasons. At least for me, we need space where we can kind of get together as a team. And going into one hotel room doesn't solve that. I'm also, personally, I don't like being around crowds. Either on that, I understand, and I'm sympathetic to what Jay's saying on this. It does help, and but it is tough for us. Is anyone willing to give us a 24-hour media room to do something with? And that's something to think about. But the media compound is a great idea. We like that, but we do need a place where we can be as a team, all four of us. And being in a tight hotel room doesn't do that very well, is what we discovered. So that's one reason why. And to be honest with you, we can't have a conversation on like Casa Fuente. Last year we were at Casa Fuente having a post-team meeting, and we got interrupted, and it was tough. And and the only reason why we didn't is it was so hot that day. The air at the house wasn't working great. Right? That's the only reason why we did that. And it was tough having that post-team meeting at Casa Fuente when we wanted to obviously be able to smoke and stuff with them.
And you should feel like you should be able to talk about things that might be, not necessarily things you want people to hear walking by, right? As
yeah.
And you need that private space.
We need that privacy, yeah. I have my situation medically. I really don't want to be in heavy crowds either, but I am on a trade show floor all day, so I get that. So it's more of a preference thing, but we do need that space. That's the most important thing I find is the media compound has helped enormously with that. We have, we could do things like hotel bandwidth is a problem for us sometimes. So there's a lot of little things like that we just can't. We don't have enough outlets sometimes for things. That the compound does have a working purpose for it. But I am sympathetic. I understand the PCA's position there. With that, so and I'm not unsympathetic to that. It's just it's a problem for us in a lot of other ways.
Alan brought up a point here. People don't want to go to New Orleans. Some of my retailers there even don't think it's a good choice.
They don't want to go, but they're gonna have to sell. PCA's gonna have to do a big sell job, and I think they will do something to make it a better experience.
John had said, I agree. I believe New Orleans only willing to do it because they are hurting financially. Otherwise, they would not do it. Why would you reward them when they don't want cigar smokers? Which is a point that Coop has definitely brought up in the past. They're not a smoke-friendly city.
I would really, if they could get one of those other two cities first, I would just do it. But those may be Dallas and Nashville may be challenges. I know Jay would want Dallas. And
personally, I like Nashville the best out of those three myself.
I like Dallas.
Well,
now Dallas I would do too. I'd rather the other two. I agree.
But Dallas, Dallas would be the best to have one guy down there. But you know what? It wouldn't matter because if Bear was in Dallas doing this, we'd probably need him at wherever we were staying. So he'd probably have to still, I can't see him going home at night, and then getting up the next morning. He lives kind of far out, so it probably would be we'd probably have to. But I would love to see Dallas would be a great location. Central.
It's true. It is central.
Exactly.
It's
pretty easy for me to get there.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm getting caught up on some of these comments. Dan Thompson had something here. Scott also mentioned the chair of the Cigar Caucus is New Orleans. If I heard correctly, national and local politics are different. comments, Coop? Anything to say on that?
Yeah, he's right. I don't know what I don't, So, but from what I understand, it's the local politics that are the problem, not the in New Orleans. It's not the state or anything like that. So that, from what I mean, I know New Orleans has been the problem, but you know,
Vince asks, have PCA provided a few conference rooms?
they just the only thing I'd say, it has to be ours exclusively, and I don't think they can afford to do that for all the media.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I don't want to have to say I'm waiting for someone else to get into a conference room, and I know it's an unrealistic expectation is the problem. So I mean, it's not that many people.
Bear actually chimed in. Curious, Jay. I love the idea of supporting the PCA, but what other benefits do you see with media staying on property? Sorry,
I think it's just like having that overall people there, right? That vibe, just the constant foot traffic, and even last year with you guys at the Coop compound, I feel like you still did spend a lot of time in the Venetian or in and around the Strip. Like you spent so much time
We
there.
weren't at the compound. Yeah, we weren't at the compound most, but even late night and in the morning, it helped us out.
Again, having that private space and talking and knowing, hey, we're
Yeah.
Jay says, get a big suite like Skip has in the past with an outside patio. Might be cost effective if they have 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe if some options are presented to us, yeah. I'm not saying I'd rule it out.
Could work.
I'm not saying it doesn't work. So.
Well, Jay,
I just don't think
as the PCA, I mean, if that's what you guys really want, then
make it happen for us.
Yes.
Make something happen where it's affordable. Yeah, that's what I would just say.
I mean,
put in an option to us. Yeah. I don't think
I mean, it's an interesting point, and it was worth bringing up.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. It's a very fair point.
It is. It's a good one. But as Coop said, and I'd probably echo that, as our team has expanded, and we would probably be looking at other options similar to the Coop team in the future as well. So I'd probably echo the same thing. I mean, we don't. I don't think we have so much of the crowd issue, but I agree. It's nice when you have all your own space. And the team can get together. Nicole will probably be traveling again, after the baby and all that too. So it would be nice to have a space like that for her, especially if the baby was to be brought along. I don't know. We haven't crossed that bridge yet. We're not even close to there yet. So shit like that for us, I mean, that the compound idea I like.
I remember Jose Blanco years ago with Emma. They'd be at the trade show and they had a babysitter.
Yeah.
So, they had a babysitter for Jasper. But Jasper was very young back then, so. Yeah, I do remember those days.
Jay Davis says, Coop, call me this week with your needs, and I'll see what Scott and Lisa can do. Worth a shot.
Fair enough, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I have to think what the needs, I'd have to talk with the team what the needs are, but I will, yeah.
I mean, I think this year's trade show, everything's already booked for both teams, but maybe for next year, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. 2024, because we wonder if even the compound, maybe we were talking if the compound is an option when it's going to be 40 degrees at night smoking outside. So
that's true. With the trade show coming on in March next year, Vegas is still a little chilly that time.
It's cold.
Yeah, I think when they get it, if they get it into April, it actually would be a big difference for it. I've been in Vegas in March and April, so I know the difference. So yeah, it is a difference. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, Jay. And that's what I mean. This is what we've seen out of Scott and the board members. They've gone in a way. Communication. They try to help us. They listen to us. They can't always do it, and that's why there's it can't be helped. But like you guys don't remember the dark days.
No,
we couldn't
get
anyone.
That's why I brought it up, because
it was so bad 10 years ago. We couldn't even get PCA to talk to us. We were acknowledged last year. The media was acknowledged last year before the trade show, And I thought it was a monumental, and I know our team and your team, we were very public on thanking the PCA for that. It meant a lot, and I never thought that day would come. So they listed the media brands that were covering the show, and I was it was great that they did that. So
I agree. I will echo
you-
that.
yeah, absolutely.
You guys have paved the way to help, all new media have a better experience than what you had, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And
look,
we're
we
very
had-
thankful.
Yeah, and look, like I said, the new Scott coming in, the staff coming in, the board coming in. I don't want to forget guys like Greg Zimmerman either, who's been great to deal with. He's been Greg Zimmerman's been one of the best PCA presidents we've had. I'll say that right on the record. I have no problem saying that. Greg Zimmerman may have done the best job of anyone I've seen as PCA president.
Coach of the year.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe if we have a PCA Hall of Fame someday, Greg and Scott could definitely get their places in there. Maybe that's a good idea. We start a PCA Hall of Fame.
PCA Hall of Fame. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We need that. Jay
We
Davis,
need that, yeah.
2011 and 2012, media was a 4-letter word.
Oh, it was. It was bad. We were the damn bloggers back then. Not the bloggers, the damn bloggers.
Yeah.
The damn bloggers. Those damn bloggers. We're not making sales because of them, and they're stealing product, and all they want is free cigars, and that's why they come to the show.
Jay Davis said Greg Zimmerman has been a great president. Maybe he can manage the Giants next.
Listen, I will say this: the Flyers
man.
could use him right now.
It's baseball season. Let's go.
And
Let's
Greg,
go.
look, no, the Flyers aren't far from Harrisburg. And I would actually hire Greg Zimmerman. And he said, I met Greg Zimmerman on a Davidoff trip. Bear and I met him when we were on the Davidoff trip, and he was at the time he was on the executive committee. And I was like, I think I said to Bear, I said, this guy's gonna be a good president when he comes in. I mean, he just very listens and doesn't just go through motions and really tries to help. And I think he's been a fantastic president.
First of all, I'm gonna circle back. Off topic, Bruins win, tie NHL record. So we got one more and we take the record. So officially, that's where the Bruins are.
Good for you. Good for you guys. What I said, I could be happier for Jim Montgomery.
Yeah.
I hope he gets the record. He's a good coach. Good coach. I'm a
Very
big fan of his.
Very proud
I
of
wish
the
we got him
Bruins
for the
right now.
Flyers. Wish we had him on the Flyers. Not against Tortorella, but Jim Montgomery's a great coach. Came out of the college ranks too.
John had said, so if you say you can smoke anywhere in a 4 or 5 block radius, you can't keep the public from walking around. And if you think people are not going to say, what are you doing? This is a smoke-free city.
Not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Absolutely. That's well, we sold our soul to get the trade show back. That's the answer.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. I think if I would see something that would advance some easing of the restrictions in New Orleans, that would be something that would be great. If they can get, and I'm sure PCA is going to work that angle. So I'm sure they're savvy enough they're going to work that angle. So I have confidence that they could. But that would be a great trade-off.
Yeah, and if we go down there and you can't really smoke a lot, it's going to suck and everyone's going to be upset. And
I'll give you a really simple one. Lift the casino smoking ban. That would be the biggest. That would be huge. You lift the casino smoking ban
That's
down
true.
there. That was just something like that. I mean, just show it you're trying to do something that you want to have a cigar convention in your city. Look, the NFL didn't give Super Bowls to Los Angeles when they had no team. Not that Los Angeles couldn't host a Super Bowl. They were more than capable of hosting a Super Bowl. They didn't give it to, San Diego's not getting any more Super Bowls from what I understand because they don't have a team anymore. And they've hosted many Super Bowls. So I think there's something to that.
Yeah. Alan, no one cares about the Yankees. So no one cares about that.
Oh, he cares about it, but that's it.
Bear Duplessis, lifting a ban, is that even possible?
It's harder to lift the ban. He's right. It's harder to lift the ban than put a ban in place. He's 100% right.
And Jay has said, my fantasy would be a trade show in New York City, but 2 million liberals would have to move to Massachusetts, and all the laws would have to be changed. Too bad. It is a great city. That's a powerful statement. But regardless of all that, New York City for a trade show?
Expensive, but they have the Javits Center that they could certainly do it in.
Yeah.
So so it's I mean it wouldn't be the worst idea, but it is expensive. Manhattan's very expensive to stay in. I mean you're talking, hotels are really expensive.
Like Bear said, or practical.
Well, practical. It's a big city, and it's a great city, New York. So I mean, I'd love this. I would love to see it in New York. It wouldn't be my first choice though. Like I said, I think Vegas is still the best place for our trade show.
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
think so too, just logistically.
Yeah,
I
think
understand it may not be the
it's not my
cheapest.
favorite city. Yeah.
But
Again, I think
Yeah.
in the long run, the PCA is still looking for a long-term place in Las Vegas. They're just looking for some transitional cities because there isn't something with they're trying to find something with the perfect
Yeah.
dates, the perfect location, and we got to maybe just bide some time at this point. At least that's
Yeah.
what it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, and we talked about this on the last show. I understand they had to get out of the Venetian, so it wasn't a good deal for them. There's a point where you have to just sometimes walk.
Well, the contract was up, wasn't it?
It was, but I think they did have an option to go back next year. But it was going to be on the same dates, and Venetian just really didn't want us there. It sounded like so they didn't make it easy for us. So it's disappointing. I think it was the best conventions. I've been to all the convention spaces in Vegas. That's the best one. Las Vegas convention is not bad. It's a good place for trade show. It's just the hotel situation is not as good.
And it sounds Jay Davis, Venetian wanted a multi-year commitment in July.
Yeah, they didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to do it.
That's
They
fair.
were look, there were too many people. Look, I can give all the reasons why I think it was ridiculous to move the trade show out of July. They're mostly selfish. But the other thing I'll just say is there were people who just didn't want. We talked about it last time. There's people who want to take vacations that time of the year. So I understand it. There's, people don't want to be in 115-degree heat. I understand that. So,
Alan, if you think anyone in California is going to give any sort of smoking exemptions for us when they're trying to currently ban smoking altogether for people of a certain age?
I know Alan keeps going on about San Diego, and I'm like, do you not?
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. To be fair to Alan, okay, we're going to New Orleans, which is just as bad in a lot of these places, right? So why not take a shot at? Maybe they tried to take a shot at San Diego to do the same. I don't know, but
They might have,
yeah. But I think in general that vibe there is probably there's more of a prohibitionary type of vibe, I think, in California.
Yeah, it's.
I think it's worse. Yes, I mean, Coop, I understand the point you made, but I think California is worse.
I think California would be worse in this case. I agree.
So I understand what Alan's saying, and you know what? On paper, interesting idea. But I think you got to get through the California politics of the smoking to begin with, and that's going to be the hardest wall to get through.
Yeah, like I said, when people say they don't care about the PCA trade show, like there's so many people who care about when it is and where it is. It's the biggest soap opera in the history of the cigar business by far. It generates more conversation on shows and content. It was funny when the PCA announcement came. I was having one of my slowest weeks traffic-wise, and it just spiked. Alan, your job is to negotiate with San Diego and talk to Scott Pierce.
Jay Davis, Mexico City would be great too, but want PCA in the USA. True.
Well, Mexico City's gotten tough. Mexico City just put some very tough smoking bans in place.
They just banned all public smoking. So I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, I know because like I said I was smoking at the Ritz-Carlton. I don't know if that's still an option anymore.
I was going to say, didn't they ban all indoor smoking too, even for places that had it allowed?
Well, so a lot of the restaurants in Mexico City have retractable roofs, and they open them up for smoking sometimes. That's what we do. That's what we have.
I heard Scott mention we need 500,000 square feet for PCA show. That
Yeah,
seems a little big.
I was wondering,
Add it up.
I was wondering, would it be possible to just downsize the trade show, not have these bigger manufacturers have such massive booths, and to accommodate for possibilities of better options. I don't know.
So I have some strong feelings on that, Mitchell. On paper, it sounds good, right?
Yeah.
But this is like if you go to TPE, it's a good example of like when you go to the cigar booths versus the alternative products, and the alternative product booths look so much nicer.
Yeah.
I think when you're dealing with luxury products, you're dealing with retailers writing big checks. You need to have a comfortable space with it.
I agree.
And I think so. Yeah, that's kind of where I feel with that. And I look at like what Cuba does with their festival. And I know I've heard people say that, right? But I think for this trade show, it still needs to be. Now, could there be some maybe control the size of a booth? Maybe. But I wouldn't like. I'd hate to see it go to the tablecloth show.
Yeah.
The curtain and tablecloth show. That's what I don't want to see.
I agree. I think it would have to be a fine medium. Again, I don't know if there is like just that slight step down of what they're looking at right now that's even available to what they want to do, or if it would have to go down way too small, like the jump's just too big, and it would be one of those just everyone's a tablecloth booth. There's nothing special, right? It still needs to be special. We are, like you said, still a premium industry, and we need to put forward a premium image. So.
Yeah.
Alan brought up a good point too. Smaller floor plan.
Yeah, that
means less
That's
revenue.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. You're right there, Alan.
Jay Davis says, "I think we need like 300 to 350,000, but I'm not the expert."
I think they want to have room to grow too, but yeah.
I was going to mention that too, the room to grow.
Well, I'm curious. So what was the size of the trade show floor when the Big Four were all there with their massive booths before?
I couldn't tell you that. Yeah, I couldn't tell you that.
The question is,
I think
what was
still,
that versus what is now?
I think they still have the same space.
Also, what's the number on total people like attending? Like, do you guys remember or know that off the top of your head? Like
the number of attendees for last year, or
I'd have to pull it up, but
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Plus, like manufacturers,
Yeah.
So I always wondered that.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up, and this gets a little tricky because it goes by tickets issued, and
right.
That's an indicative of floor traffic, which is a different measurement. So some people aren't on the floor the whole time. So I'm just trying to see if I have the numbers here, but I'll look to see if I do.
The bigger the presence, the bigger the sales. Yep.
Very true.
No, for sure. Like again, this is just kind of the options of, again, this transitional time. Like I said, in the long run, I'm pretty sure they're just going to be looking at Vegas, big floor plans, big space, and it's going to end up going there because So
here's what I have. There were 200,036 retailer badges issued for 707 accounts and 2,374 stores. So an account could have multiple stores.
Right.
So that was a significant badges. It was 1622 in 2021. So they had a significant bump, but that was the whole post-COVID trade show. So, that's why it was the case.
And that's just on the retailers.
Yes, and you have the manufacturers would probably double that number.
Right.
Especially, I see this, when some companies bring an enormous amount of people.
That's true, especially the bigger companies. They bring entire teams. They bring in the executives. They bring in ownership. They bring in administrative staff.
Well, it's opportunity for them to network and
grow
their business.
Absolutely. So, yeah, of course. I mean,
But,
a lot of people either way, And, again, there's going to be a lot of companies that have decent to large-size booths, too, that need that space for those reasons, too. They have a lot of staff. Hey, big companies, they got all their sales reps there. They got, all their sales reps meeting with all their accounts and their different territories that are coming to the show. You need space for everyone to do their thing. Bigger the company, the bigger the space they do actually need. So, like Coop said, you don't want it to be the tablecloth and curtain show. Can you imagine Drew Estate being at a single tablecloth, and doing business? That would be.
You got local events for tablecloths.
Yeah.
So but you need to have a place to do business. You need to have room to, even those booths at the PCA, they have very small booths. It's tough to do business at those booths. So it's much easier when, I could go into the Oliva booths and there's an area I can go and meet while other business is going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It sounds like, did my microphone just drop out? What's going on here?
It does sound a little low.
What happened there? Let's turn this up. Oh, that was way too high. I don't know what happened there. I think I have a loose connection in my headset cord. Because it's been just, it's been a little strange. Oh, there we go. Now we're back. Sorry about that. Just adjust this back down. Jay Davis, the comments keep coming. I think the cohort for the show is around 6,000 attendees.
Sounds
total.
about right.
Sounds about right. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
When you think about it. And you need room for all those people to spread around and do what they got to do. I know Nicole had said, like, hey, what about, for example, I think it was the Foxwoods Convention Center, because you have an area that has a convention center, casino right there, big hotel, which since she said that, we actually had been down there, and they actually recently stopped smoking in the casino because she's like, wow, because then you could be in the casino. It's kind of like Vegas. And I remember Scott saying they actually did explore Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, and they found them to be too small. But I don't know exactly how big those convention centers are. So
that's a big problem that we have with this trade show is we're too big for a lot of these places. Same with the Hard Rock, and we're actually too small for Vegas in a lot of the cases. So
true.
Yeah.
True. So yeah, so it's tricky. And again, we have this conversation, but it's not easy. And then you get the whole smoking thing, which, if we were any other industry, it wouldn't really be an issue. It would be easier to find somewhere to go. But with the smoking thing, you can't just go anywhere.
We're a very social industry, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very social. You also need places to smoke at when the Daily Show is over, and this is true, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what Coop just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs to be a central place.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's New Orleans created a huge problem. Orlando created a problem, too, when it was there. But New Orleans, it was really bad. Everyone was just scattered all over the city that night. And we were going, I remember I went across town a couple of nights, and it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I think this is a good stopping point for us. We've had a lot of conversation here tonight.
Absolutely.
So
I just put down my meat burrito, which was delicious.
I still got a
It
little
was
bit
bad.
left.
It wasn't bad.
Got a little left.
Had a little age on it. This wasn't bad.
Very good, very good. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for our show this week. So thank you to everyone who's been here all night with us, watching along, listening along, and thank you to everyone who's been watching or listening later on our YouTube channel or on the podcast platforms. And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe on those platforms so you don't miss any of our episodes. Before we go, I should mention we are still running the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation fundraiser raffle. I think we're around 14,000. We still have a little bit to go, and we're still a little bit of ways away from our kind of unofficial goal. So don't forget to check that out. If you head over to smokingtobacco.com, you can find the link in the navigation bar under charity fundraiser, while also going to go.rallyup.com/smokingtobacco2023. You can find the raffle page there, as well as all the amazing prizes that we have, or as Mitchell pointed out this week, epic prizes.
Epic.
And there's some more stuff coming. There's going to be some swag and rare cigar samplers from Arturo Fuente that need to be put up. We've just been a little bit behind on getting that stuff together and up on the thing, but there's more of that stuff coming. One other prize that I still need to finalize with the manufacturer that's not cigars, but definitely cigar related. So just keep an eye out for that. But we are getting towards that point where I don't know how many more prizes that are going to be added, just because I try not to add them too late in the game. But whatever, we'll see what happens. But don't miss that. Once again, everyone always asks me about it after it's over. Not everyone, but a good group of people, and I always tell them you missed out. So don't miss out. Make sure you get your raffle tickets in there. It's for a great cause. You know, let's raise a good amount of money for these kids because they deserve it, and it changes lives every day. But thank you to everyone who's been here tonight. I appreciate it. Gentlemen, thanks for being here with me, and
Thank
we'll
you.
see you guys next week. Take care.